Good morning and welcome to my blog, Wisdom for Today. And here we are on the cusp of Holy Week. And this is the week where we contemplate all the aspects that led to resurrection. And then finally, we contemplate the resurrection itself. We start with Maundy, Thursday, when the apostles met with Jesus in a small room and for the first time participated in the Lord's Supper. And then from there is a betrayal, and Jesus goes to the Garden of Gethsemane, and we go into Friday, Good Friday, where Jesus makes this long road up to the cross. And up to now, we've been going over the last words of Jesus on the cross. And then we go into a time of waiting in the tomb, and then we contemplate the gloriness and powerfulness of the resurrection. You know, a lot of ministers will be addressing the resurrection in different ways. No doubt there will be people that will talk about resurrection vaguely, about how the snow melts and the flowers bloom again and you have a new harvest, new life in our world. Some people will talk about Christ being raised in your heart, and they'll talk about the power of living out the Sermon on the Mount and being kind to others and showing empathy. And I think that's a noble message in some ways because our world needs kindness right now. And we need people to know what it means to turn the other cheek and to listen to other people and to show mercy to the poor people that are in our midst and to clothe the naked. But I have to say, and feed the poor. But I have to say the most important message of the resurrection for me is the literal bodily resurrection of Jesus. Because in order to do all those good works I just talked about, I need Christ inside of me. And in order to have Christ inside of me, I needed him to literally raise from the dead. He had to overcome death and all its consequences. And there's many scriptures that talk about that. Yes, the Sermon on the Mount is important. And I wish our world would tend to it more. And I wish people would try to be more kind. But the power that gives me to live it out is the teaching that's found in John 14:6, where Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. Or in John chapter 1, where it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. And then later on in the chapter it says, but to many as received him, to them he gave power to become sons and daughters of God, even those who believed on his name. But the passage I'm going to read to you today about having that power inside of me to obey the laws of kindness is found in Philippians chapter 3, verses 10 through 11. The Apostle Paul is talking about how he used to try to earn his own salvation by being good. And now he's going to try to know his salvation by knowing Christ as Lord and Savior. And he says, I want to know Christ, the power of his resurrection, the fellowship of sharing in his suffering, becoming like him in his death, and so somehow attain to the resurrection of the dead. Let's take the first part of the passage first. I want to know him. That's not just know him intellectually, know that there was a man named Jesus who did good things, and so I ought to do good things. It's a relationship knowing, and that's the Greek word. It's to know someone by experiencing them. I want to experience Jesus Christ. But not just experience him and his good teaching, but to understand why he suffered on the cross. And if need be, to join him in that suffering. And then somehow attain the resurrection of the dead. And that's the subject I want to focus in today. The Greek word attain means to reach down, to grab, as God does to us. But the root of the word is enato. And enato means this. It means to meet face to face. To meet face to face. Do you remember when Moses received the 10 Commandments? Moses talked to God as one would face to face. That was intimate talk. One of my favorite songs comes from the 70s, and I put it on our Facebook page, and I put a link to it in my description. Now, when you hear it, you will recognize that it's dated and it's old. So please try to overlook that. But the words are what touched me as a little girl. And it says this, because it talks about knowing God intellectually and knowing Him personally. In the stars His handiwork I see. On the wind He speaks with majesty. Sure, He ruleth over land and sea. But what is that to me? I will celebrate Nativity, in other words, Christmas, for it has its place in history. I know He came to set His people free, but what is that to me? So this is someone who knows God, who attributes God to be a great creator and to be a part in history, but what's it to him or her? And then it says, till by faith I met Him face to face, and I felt the wonder of His grace. Then I knew that He was more than just a God who didn't care, who lived away up there, and now He walks beside me day by day, ever holding on to me lest I stray, helping me to find that narrow way. He's everything to me. I love that song because we see a faith journey. We see someone who believes in Jesus intellectually and will attribute glory to Jesus for being a great prophet or even being God, because he says, though He ruleth over land and sea, but He hasn't encountered with Jesus until by faith He sees Him face to face. That's the resurrection power I want you to know this Sunday. Even if you know Christ as Lord and Savior, give yourself a quiet moment in the church service to bow your head and meet Christ face to face. Because He has good stuff for us here on this earth. We just have to open up our hearts to it. I hope to see most of you who are from Calvary at Maundy Thursday service and on Easter morning. And for those of you who don't live in Enfield, find a good Bible-believing church to go to and worship God, because He wants to meet you face to face. God's blessings, and have a good day.